rise against nation, and kingdom against kingdom. There shall be famines and pestilences and earthquakes, and this gospel of the kingdom shall be preached in all the world, and then shall the end come.
Tell us, when will these things be? And what will be the sign of your coming and of the end of the age?
Here's today's prophecy update. Foreign ministers from 29 countries convened in Paris, France on Friday to discuss the stalled Israeli-Palestinian peace process. After 5 hours of debate, the ministers released a statement saying that the international community expects Israel and the Palestinians to demonstrate, with policies and actions, a genuine commitment to the two-state solution in order to rebuild trust. The joint communique also asserted that the two-state solution represents the only path to peace between Israel and the Palestinians. The foreign ministers said they were alarmed that actions on the ground, in particular continued acts of violence and ongoing settlement activity, are dangerously imperiling the prospects for a two-state solution. The foreign ministers agreed in principle to hold an international conference to push further for a peace deal by the end of 2016, but did not set a date. Will they ever reach a deal? Yes. And when they finally do, according to the prophecies of the Bible, the final 7 years to Armageddon will begin. Wow. What incredible territory we're in right now. Prophetic territory, prophecy fulfilling territory. Well, it's Friday. That means it's open line. That's your day. So whatever you want to talk about, we're ready to go. The number to call to be on the air with me and with Jim Stickelman, who's anchoring our program back at our headquarters in Plano, Texas. That number is 877-END-TIME. That's 877-363-8463 to reach our operators. That number is 800-END-TIME. But to be with Jim and myself, 877-END-TIME. We've had quite a week this week here at Politics and Religion, and perhaps we'll talk about it a little bit later. But right now, we don't want to take any more of your time because already the phones are lighting up. There are still open lines, however, so if you want to get in the queue, just simply call us 877-END-TIME. Jim, I think we're ready to go to the phone, so it's back to you.
All right, let's start today out in South Carolina. Tim, you're on End of the Age.
How you doing, Mr. Irvin Baxter? I've been watching you for a while.
Well, thank you, Tim. Glad to have you on the program.
Yes.
Go ahead, Tim.
I'd just like to say something real quick. I was thinking that a peace treaty would be signed and World War III would start, and I think it would evolve into Armageddon towards the end. That's what I was thinking, but I'd just like to know your input on that thought, and I will hang up.
Okay, well, thanks a lot, Tim. I've been saying to everyone, knowing that this big conference was coming up, which of course occurred earlier today in Paris, France. They're 7 hours ahead of our time here in Dallas, Texas. So they've now finished with their meeting. But during that meeting earlier, we've been looking forward to this meeting for a while. And the big question was, okay, will the powers that are coming together, which are representing the main powers of the international community, I'm talking about Russia, the United States, the European Union, all the big players were at this meeting, 29 foreign ministers. And the question was, would they pound out specific parameters that they felt like the Palestinians and the Israelis should comply with in order to really get moving toward a peace agreement? Now, we only have one short statement out of this meeting. There was 5 hours of debate. So to say we know everything that happened there, we certainly do not. Did they talk about borders? Did they talk about the status of Jerusalem? Did they talk about the status of the Temple Mount? I'm sure all of the above. However, it's really important for us to understand that what they were discussing about has to deal with one of the greatest prophetic fulfillments of all time. They were trying to get a peace agreement between Palestinians and Israelis. I told you at the time, however, that I didn't believe they would get a deal yet, because I don't think it's quite time for the final 7 years to begin. Furthermore, we've got this war that's going to kill 1/3 of mankind, prophesied in Revelation 9, verse 13 through 16. That has to happen. It's supposed to emanate from the Euphrates River area and kill 1/3 of the human race, 2.4 billion people. An unprecedented war. I had a hard time seeing how this war could happen after the peace agreement is signed, because that sets in motion the final 7 years. And the first 3.5 years of that 7, the temple is supposed to be built on the Temple Mount and animal sacrifices resumed. So you look at this as a time of relative peace. But if you're having a war that's absolutely engulfing the whole world during this time, it was hard for me to realize. It makes a lot more sense logically, even though the Bible does not address it squarely as to whether the war comes first or whether the peace agreement comes first. Both of them, by the way, prophetic fulfillments that would be the two greatest since the crucifixion and resurrection of Jesus Christ. But it's hard to believe that they could actually have that war during the first 3.5 years. So consequently, we have to believe, at least I believe right now, that the war will happen. Now, anything's possible, of course, but it looks like the war will happen first. And then out of the chaos of that war, there was a little bit of pressure at this meeting today for the international community to come up with a solution, but not really. What if they didn't? But after 2.4 billion people are being buried by bulldozers, can you imagine the pressure on the Palestinians and Israelis? Look, no more. We're trying to mess with this. We've been wrestling with this conflict since 1948. We're not putting up with it anymore. We're going to get an agreement now. Now do this, 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 and this. And we are determined, the international community is going to force you to do this if you don't agree to do it on your own. So they're going to reach a peace agreement. The Bible prophesies it. So I'm not really surprised that they didn't come to a full agreement today. But we're probably going to learn more details as we go along, because people leave these meetings and they give interviews and they talk, and little by little, the details come boiling out as to what was really said there. Now, one thing I want you to notice, they are planning an international conference for later on this year. We'll talk about that a little bit more. However, I noticed we got a call coming in from New Zealand. I don't want to leave Alan on hold, so Jim, let's go there.
All right, Alan, you're on the air.
How you doing today, Irvin?
I'm doing wonderful. Nice to hear from you.
And always hearing from you. It's always good to be able to call in. Do appreciate that ability, so we can always check in with you and see what's going on. A couple of points, as usual, as I always do. Number one, some people, I suppose, around the world don't see how, I don't know whether Americans would feel this way too. I know the elections are important to you, but I think they're also important to us around the world and other countries, because if we do move into the Great Tribulation time, we will need a place of safety if we are to get out of some of our countries. And so it is pretty important that you guys do elect the right president who God sees to be put in there. So that's a point I just wanted to bring up. And another thing is,
Alan, one of the questions is, will God determine or not? We would like to think that he would give us the person that we should have. And we here in America are certainly praying that God will do that. And when you look at some of the platform of the two sides, you can see where one of the platforms is favoring world government and the New World Order. The other platform is against globalism and against open borders and for building a wall in order to secure the sovereignty of the United States of America. So our choice has probably never been more clear-cut than it is right now. It certainly looks like, from a prophetic standpoint, that we're certainly choosing between two extremely opposite positions right now.
Yeah, definitely. The Jerusalem Prophecy College, if there's anyone out there, because I know you do promote it, but sometimes to hear from those students, like I'm a student at the moment doing it, and I'm thoroughly enjoying it. So if there's anyone around the world that definitely wants to jump onto the Jerusalem Prophecy College, they should do that. Now, Irvin, your series that you've been doing at the moment, Here to Armageddon, is that going to be an actual series or a DVD collection that's coming out at some point?
Yes, actually, we're hoping to turn that into that. What we're doing, we've been trying for some time to melt our radio program and our television program together because we would like to be on worldwide television every day. So we, for the first time, just yesterday, we produced a simultaneous television program, webcast, and radio program all in one. And that's actually the thing that pushed us to alter the name of our radio talk show from Politics and Religion to End of the Age, because we wanted them to all be one thing. That way I can do a radio and a television program all simultaneously. So yesterday was and that it will hopefully we'll be doing that every day. But of course it takes a lot of preparation, research, and work to really have program every day. But yes, this From Here to Armageddon, it will become a series later.
Okay. Now I've got just one more question, then a comment after that if the listeners behind me don't actually mind, don't get to call them too often. But Irvin, you know how you always talk about how the settlers on the ground are facts on the ground in Israel. Would you agree with that in the West Bank area?
They certainly are. There are 800,000 Jews now on the side of the 1967 borders that was controlled by Jordan. So the presence of settlers and their homes there is definitely.
Okay. Now, would you agree that if you were to make sure that you could solidify that and make that a solid fact for future negotiations, that you would want more population to move in there? Would you agree with that fact?
Well, that's been the whole premise. Many people have felt that way. However, there are those who feel like there's such pressure from the international community right now to stop people from moving in there, because the more people that move in, the more remote the possibility of a two-state solution becomes. I was reading an article just before I came on the air today from none other but the son of Mahmoud Abbas, who's the president of the Palestinians, and he's already told his dad, the days for the two-state solution are over. It's no longer possible. Everywhere we look out here in the West Bank, there's Jewish buildings, there's Jewish homes, there's Jewish settlements. It's not practical anymore. We've got to go to a one-state solution where both Arabs and Jews are equal citizens. Now, that's what he's been saying. However, the international community, in the communique they issued today from Paris, France, when 29 of the world's foreign ministers got together, of the most powerful nations on earth, when they got together, they affirmed emphatically the endorsement of and that it was the only way there could be a peace agreement. Looks like the two-state solution is going to be over with.
Now, from that, I'd like to ask this question, because there are those that contend that behind the scenes, you know how sometimes there is one move done on a chessboard and a person is thinking well ahead, and there are those that contend that probably the Syrian war, being Israel's number one neighbour, there was a ploy to actually basically break up their country, send migrants to Europe, force the Jews out of there, put pressure on Europe, similar to what happened in World War II before the formation of Israel as a state, and try and get Jews from around the world to get out of Europe and push them into Israel, so that in the future they actually will be able to round them all up a lot easier. And there's been books for probably 50, 60 years talking about that type of scenario where they could push the Jews after World War II into a state and then they could round them up easier. So what's your thoughts on that?
You know, there are all kinds of diabolical thinking out there, and I suppose there may be someone in some dark cellar somewhere that's thinking, oh yeah, let's get all the Jews into Israel, and then we'll just nuke them all, and bing, we'll accomplish what Adolf Hitler failed to accomplish. There are people out there who are of theories. Now, does that mean that is conspiracy of the powers that be right now? Probably not. Is that possibly what's in Satan's mind, because a lot of times we see these global affecting plans and we think, who in the world is the brilliant mastermind that's putting all this together? When the real answer is there is none as far as a human being. In Revelation 13, 1 through 2, tells us who's the mastermind behind this whole thing. It says the dragon gave the Antichrist and his one world government its seat, its power, and great authority. So would Satan dream of such a thing? Well, I'm sure he does. But is there a person or a committee or some kind of a private club that is truly planning this? Frankly, I have my doubts, even though there may be someone somewhere that thinks, oh, yeah, if someday we could do this, that would be great. But as far as believing that's really the plan, I don't think I believe that.
Okay, now last comment, Irvin. It is my birthday officially today. I am 49 years old. Now, I was born one day before the Six-Day War started in Israel, so that's 49 years ago. Now, I remember you telling the story, and I'd like you to tell your listeners how you were actually teaching at that time, and people were thinking that the rapture was going to take place before the Jerusalem was actually captured by the Israelis. So once again, I appreciate you allowing me to speak to you and just tell that story. I'd appreciate it. Thanks, Irvin.
Okay, well, thank you very much, Alan. Isn't technology remarkable? Here I'm sitting at my desk in a hotel room up in Flint, Michigan, and my signal is going back to our studio, and Alan's calling in from halfway around the world at New Zealand. And I noticed there was a little bit of a pause that we had to deal with there, but isn't it remarkable that we can have a talk show from Flint, Michigan to Plano, Texas to New Zealand and back to Plano and back to Flint, Michigan? Amazing technology. I do want to hurry because we've got a lot of people waiting in line, but let me briefly respond to Alan. First of all, he mentioned the Jerusalem Prophecy College. When we started the college, I had a lot of people calling me, do I have to live in Jerusalem to be a part of the Jerusalem Prophecy College? Well, yes, because that's the only place I was teaching. The college was in Jerusalem. However, they became so numerous that I went to one of our staff members who had taught in a secular online college, and I asked if we would be able to convert the Jerusalem Prophecy College to an online college. She said, I think we can do that. Well, they went to work and worked very diligently and very hard, and we launched it. The first semester, we had 3 students enroll. The second semester, 25. The third semester, 200. So it's taken off. People from all over the world. I think we have 15 different nations so far, people from 15 different nations that have now enrolled. So you can enroll to the Jerusalem Prophecy College. Here's the way you get started. Simply go on the internet to JerusalemProphecyCollege.com. A sheet will then come up there telling you exactly what to do. That's all you have to do. So anyway, don't forget that, JerusalemProphecyCollege.com. If you're interested in attending the Jerusalem Prophecy College, it consists of 4 in-depth semesters on Bible prophecy. In addition to that, then, another course is offered called Endtime University, and that consists of many other things. They'll tell you all about it. But anyway, when you talk about the Jerusalem Prophecy College, you're talking about a 4-semester course, and we're getting wonderful reviews from that. Then finally, Alan was asking me to tell you about my experience the day the 1967 war broke out. I actually was preaching right up here in Michigan at Ypsilanti, Michigan. I was holding a revival. I was very young at the time. How old would I have been? 21 or so. And by then, I did not believe that when the war broke out that would signal the rapture. But most of the preachers did believe that. They believed that when Jerusalem was captured by Israel, the Bible says that the Gentiles would trod down the holy city until the times of the Gentiles be fulfilled. Well, not fully understanding that scripture, they taught that as soon as Israel captured Jerusalem, the times of the Gentiles are over, and therefore the rapture would take place. Well, the pastor for whom I was preaching that night happened to believe that. So he got up in his service the day the fighting broke out and said to everyone, folks, they're fighting in Israel. If they cross that barbed wire fence, we're gone. You would have thought I was the Apostle Paul. When I gave the altar call that night, there was no room at the altar for anyone to pray. People came pouring in because they all wanted to make sure they were ready. Now, I didn't believe what the man had said, even though I respected him greatly. I did not believe that that's what the Bible taught. Consequently, I was sitting with my ear glued to the radio the next day, and they crossed the fence and captured Jerusalem. And I was still there. I was sure hoping he was wrong because I wasn't gone. Well, later on in the day, I went over to the church to pray in preparation for the service that night, and the pastor was outside hooking up his Airstream trailer to his car. And I thought, oh my goodness, has this thrown him so bad he's leaving town? So I stopped and said, hey, preacher, what are you doing? He said, oh, I'm a false prophet. I'm leaving town. Well, he was strictly joking. The truth of the matter was he was taking his trailer up to have some work done to it. However, the bottom line is that was misunderstood. It was preached all over the country. Now, the Lord's coming. The war's taking place. And if Israel recaptures Jerusalem, then the times of the Gentiles is over. Well, they misunderstood the passage. It wasn't true. Nevertheless, that's the story that Alan wanted me to tell you all about. A lot of people, I think, got right with God during that time, though. If it takes that again, well, so be it. All right. Hey, we've got to hurry, and the time is just absolutely flying by. So, Jim, let's get right back to you.
All right, 1-877 End Time is our on-air number. That's 1-877-363-8463. Let's go now to Texas, and David, you're next up.
Hey, Irvin, I've been wanting to ask this question. The verse in the Bible that says all the Jews will be brought back to Israel, when is that going to happen in your mind?
I'm not sure exactly what verse you're referring to, David. I don't recall a verse saying
Jewish people will be brought back to Israel in the latter days, and like
well, in Ezekiel chapter number 37, there's the story of the dry bones that Ezekiel saw a vision of. He was told to prophesy. They all came together. And then there are other passages that say, I will gather them. But to say that, there's one verse that says 100% of all Jews will go back to Israel. I'm not sure that that's there, even though the prophecy, the regathering of them to Israel is definitely in the Bible. But to say every single one of them must be there, that's another question.
Well, okay. Oh, another thing, American pilots off our aircraft carrier in the Mediterranean just started flying bombing missions again. And, of course, the Russian jets are already in the air, so look out.
Yeah, well, thank you very much, David. And as far as your first question, the Bible does say all Israel shall be saved. And I do believe that prophesies about an incredible revival. Here's what we have to understand, that this is the most important thing. Almighty God has dealt with the Gentiles for 2,000 years because the Jewish people rejected Jesus as their Messiah. However, all that time it was prophesied that someday he would turn back to the Jews and ultimately they would receive Jesus as their Messiah. They were in exile for 2,000 years. 1948, they were declared a nation again in their land. That was an explicit fulfillment of prophecy. But the process is not over because Israel as a nation has not yet turned to Jesus Christ. They will soon. During the final 7 years, they are going to turn more and more toward Jesus Christ until finally he comes to save them at Armageddon. And then all who have not turned to him by then will turn to him at that time. That's the reason we have a prophecy college in downtown Jerusalem, because we feel like God has called us to be a part of that turning of Israel to Jesus as their Messiah. So anyway, that's all part of what the Bible says is going to happen. It's prophesied. It is going to happen. Nobody's going to stop it. But we will have the privilege of participating in it nevertheless. Listen, thank you very much, David, for the phone call, as always. And let me see. I want to make sure that we've got time. I think we've got time for one more. Jim, let's try it.
All right, let's stay in Texas with Russ. You're next up on End of the Age.
Hey, Irvin, this is Ralph from Lubbock. How are you today?
Ralph, how are you doing?
All right. I had one little insert to give to you about your thinking that the United States would be separate from the beast, and I
entirely agree with you. And the reason why I say that is because if we get into World War III with Russia, after we get out of the war, I feel certain that people aren't going to want to pal up with Russia and be buddy-buddy. And we know that Russia's the feet of the beast. And like you say, we find the eagle in Revelation 12:14 protecting the woman, Israel, all the way to the end. And so I agree with you. But the main reason I called, and I noticed that you had said that you didn't think that there were people sitting around conspiring world leaders. Well, it's out in the open, and I was wanting to ask you about this, and obviously from your comment you haven't seen it, but the Goddard Train Tunnel event that happened on June 1st, just a couple of days ago, it is obviously welcoming Satan as the ruler of the world. It is the biggest Broadway-looking production I've ever seen, and they're welcoming Satan as the world leader. They're welcoming him, and you got all the world leaders there, Merkel and Italy and France, and they're all there, and they are welcoming Satan. It's about a 40-minute deal. I saw it on True News. You can look it up on the internet, True News, and it's about a 40-minute video, and there's hundreds of people involved in. It's like a Broadway production.
Ralph, I see we're up against a break right now. If you need for us to hold you over, we will. But if not, send us the information where we can view that. I'm very interested in what you have to say. Right now, though, we're up against a break. You're listening to End of the Age. The number to reach us, 800 Endtime. That's our operators. To be on the air with Jim and myself, 877 Endtime. We'll be back in just a moment. Stay right where you are.
Attention Jeffersonville, Indiana, Arlington, Texas, and Simsbury, Connecticut. Irvin Baxter's coming to your area for an End Time conference. He will be speaking on the subjects America's God-given destiny and breaking prophetic fulfillments. End Time conferences are a great opportunity to meet Irvin and hear the latest events going on in Bible prophecy. Shop End Time product and meet other people like you who are wanting to learn the prophecies of the Bible. Every time I go to an End Time conference, I feel so energized, like one of the people that can be strong and do exploits, as Daniel 11:32 says. Go to endtime.com and under events, click the conference link or call 1-800-ENDTIME to find out more details about these conferences. We'll see you there.
The seeds of the Battle of Armageddon were sown on November 29th, 2012. The seeds sown on that historic day are in the process of producing a dreadful harvest. The Bible actually describes it as the harvest of Armageddon. Learn the story of what happened on November 29th, 2012, when the seeds were sown for the world's final battle, the growth of which are the events that will occur on the journey to where the story ends, at the reaping of the harvest of Armageddon. Call 1-800-END-TIME to order this important lesson.
If your radio station only carries the first 30 minutes of End of the Age, go to endtime.com and click the watch button to continue today's broadcast. You can also finish up later by clicking the archives button.
You know, Ralph was mentioning, our last caller, how that Satan worship is escalating. You know, when you're a Christian, you live insulated from such a thing. It becomes, it's unthinkable that there are really people who worship Satan in our world. Now, sometimes they don't really worship Satan. They just worship Lucifer, and they make up this myth that Lucifer is really not bad. He is really good. He's an angel of light, and therefore they enthrone him. And there are major movements in our world that do that. Nevertheless, Satan doesn't care how he gets into our lives. He'll come in under any deceit or under any disguise. But I have read many articles recently. There's an uptick of Satan worship in our world, and it's all preparing us for the Antichrist. You know, I never believed that America would pass a law legitimatizing a marriage of a man to a man. And we didn't pass a law, actually. The Supreme Court of 5 people out of 9 said that a law against it was a violation of civil rights. So one person made that decision. 4 were for it, 4 were against it. The one person was in the catbird seat, and he swung everything that way. And before long, I mean, when I say before long, I mean by that night, Barack Obama had lit up the front of the White House with the rainbow colors of the homosexual community, celebrating sodomy. Believe in it? Can you believe it? Celebrating sodomy in the United States of America, one nation under God. Well, let me tell you, anybody that does that is not under God. You know, when you're under God, you don't read the Bible when it says that if a man lies with mankind as with womankind, it is an abomination. And then you celebrate what God says an abomination? No, you're not under God. I'll just tell you that. I mean, that doesn't take a genius to figure that out. If the Bible says for a man to lie with mankind as with womankind, it is an abomination. And by the way, the penalty in the Old Testament was death. Fortunately, in the New Testament, that's not the case. Nevertheless, that's where we are right now. I never thought I would see that. And so when somebody says, you know, they're starting to worship Satan all over, well, I have a hard time believing we would see that. But since what we've been through the last 8 to 12 years, almost anything seems to be possible anymore. Nevertheless, thank you very much for that information. We need to get right back to the phones. It is open line to be on the air with Jim and myself, 877 End time 877-363-8463. And Jim, let's go right back to the phones now.
All right, let's go to Michigan now. And Dan, you're next up on End of the Age.
Hello, Irvin.
Hey, Dan, how are you?
I am doing just wonderful. You're in Michigan. Are you speaking somewhere or what?
Actually, I'm speaking at the South Flint Tabernacle on Sunday morning. It was not a scheduled event. It's not a prophecy event. But a friend of mine pastors there, and we will be there on Sunday morning for their service.
Okay. Hey, just a comment, first of all. This is the first time I've ever called in. About 2 months ago, through divine appointment, as the Lord does, I was led to your ministry through my grandmother. And I want to say that I've been extremely blessed, done a lot of research up through the years, trying to understand what prophecy is. And when I started watching those 14 videos, which I watched in about a week, just to plug in for those, I knew and I understood that God has had his hand on your life, and I appreciate the ministry so much, and I've begun praying for you guys.
Oh, we certainly thank you for that, Dan.
Yes. I had about 3 comments. One of them was, there's been some quote unquote or whatever prophecies out there regarding Donald Trump. I don't know if anybody has talked about the one that was on True News regarding this New York City firefighter named Mark Taylor back in 2011. And have you heard anything about that?
No, I haven't. Tell me.
Okay. Well, this guy was a firefighter for the World Trade Center. Anyway, I'm just telling you, you could look it up on True News. He gave back in 2011, long before Donald Trump was even involved or anything, he felt like the Lord spoke to him, and he wrote it all down. And it's very interesting that so much of the stuff in the prophecy that he wrote down, a lot of it lines up with what you believe is going to, the changes that are going to take place in America. So I would recommend anybody to get a hold of that. Very, very interesting. I know that it's rattled a lot of people's thinking, because, Trump's not necessarily a choir boy by any stretch of the means. But anyway, I thought it was very interesting. It lines up with a lot of the stuff that you said regarding God using America to protect Israel and great revival coming.
Well, I certainly believe that, Dan. I thank you. Is anything else?
Yeah, I had a question about my wheels have been turning. I heard, I think it was you or Dave the other day, maybe it was you, talking about the second coming being suggesting that the second coming is going to be around the time of the Feast of Trumpets. So my wheels got turning, and I thought, well, if that's the case, then this signing of the covenant, the peace covenant, would have to be 7 years prior at the Feast of Trumpets, wouldn't it?
Well, maybe. The reason I say maybe is because in Daniel chapter number 12, you've got some variables thrown at you there. It says the Antichrist will reign to the 1,290th day. Blessed is he that cometh to the 1,335th day. So there's a 45-day differential there that we've not been able to account for. My theory is that will be the amount of time the Battle of Armageddon will rage, and during which time Jesus will then come back, put down the thrones of men, and will crown him King of Kings and Lord of Lords. So to nail it down to the very week or the very day, because of some of those variables that are in there, may not be easy. But there's a lot of people who do believe that the second coming will happen at the time of the Feast of the Trumpets. I'm not willing to say that, but I'm certainly not willing to argue against it either.
I see. Well, I appreciate you talking about that 45-day variance. I had not heard that yet, and that makes a little more sense. One more thought, and I'm not saying you're going to suggest yay or nay on this, but you've been talking a lot about Obama, especially during his lame duck session, really pushing for this peace treaty. I know there's been tons of speculation, like lots of other people in the last few years, that he could be the Antichrist. So if he, since he's pushing for it so hard, once he leaves the American scene or whatever, is there any chance that if he pushes for this, that he could be the one?
Right now, the way I see it, I don't think he could be the one, Dan, because the Bible is explicit that the Antichrist must come out of the reborn Holy Roman Empire. The Bible also teaches that he will be a ruler who will come up among 10 rulers, a 10-nation alliance, and he will uproot 3 of those. And that's when he actually ultimately becomes the Antichrist. I just don't see how President Obama could fulfill all those things. I do believe that he pushes much of the agenda. He's very much for one world government. He's very much for many of the concepts that the Antichrist himself will embrace, but I don't see how President Obama himself can be the Antichrist unless there's something I simply cannot factor in right now.
I see. Okay. Well, thank you so much, and thanks for the reminder about the Holy Roman Empire. I remember about that. I appreciate you taking my call. Thank you so much. Your videos and everything have been such a blessing. Could you tell me one more time which church? I might run down and meet you down there in Flint. You're not too far away. Which church are you going to be at?
It's the South Flint Tabernacle, and I believe that's still their name. So the pastor is Robert Henson. So if you get there, I imagine the service tomorrow is around 10 in the morning. I'm sure if you went to their website, you could see all the details there. So if you make it down there, I'll be glad to see you.
Yeah, and you're going to be preaching there when? On Saturday or on Sunday?
No, that's Sunday morning.
Sunday morning. Thank you so much, and thank you so much for taking my call. I appreciate it.
Okay, thank you, Dan. We appreciate it very much. Wow, what a day we live in. I want to break just a moment to tell you that on October the 27th through November the 7th, we will be going to Israel again. We now are going each spring and each fall because we feel like God wants us to really stay in touch with what's going on there. Plus, there are so many people wanting to go. And when they go, they want to go with someone that can explain not only what did happen there, the life of Jesus, the apostles, all the prophets, and that in itself is an incredible experience, but they want to go with someone who can also tell them, okay, but what's happening right now and what is coming to pass? Well, that's the main thing that we do. We do both, actually, on our particular tour. We explain what has happened, but we also explain what's happening now, and then we actually take you to the place where the Battle of Armageddon will begin. We will also take you to the place where the Battle of Armageddon will end. We will stand you on the site that Jesus Christ will return to. I mean, you're going to stand there. I mean, it's like your hair stands up on the back of your neck. And I've done it 20-some times, and it still affects me the same way. You're actually going to see the gate that Jesus will enter when he goes up on the Temple Mount, when he comes back at his second coming. Well, There's nothing like this tour. If you've never been to the Holy Land, especially never been on a prophecy tour with Endtime Ministries, you owe it to yourself. So if you can go with us, we would love to have you. Judy and I will be with you every step of the way. We'll be on the buses with you. We will be having breakfast, dinner, and supper together. We will be doing prophecy briefings all along the way. And one more big bonus, we're going to have our annual prophecy conference in Jerusalem, downtown Jerusalem. And we're anticipating having a lot of Jewish people there, and all of our travelers will also be able to be there. So it's going to be a great prophecy conference because we want to reach the Jewish people. You'll actually go into our college where we teach every week. So anyway, it's going to be a great trip. If you're interested in the tour, call 1-800-INTIME and ask to speak to someone about the tour. That's 1-800-363-8463. And let's get one more in before we go to our break, Jim.
All right, let's go to North Carolina. And Aaron, you're next up.
Hey, how you doing, Pastor Baxter?
I'm doing wonderful, Aaron.
Well, I wanted to get your opinion on something. It's a little controversial, but I know that I know you really don't have any limits when it comes to things in the Bible. I recently posted something on Facebook about tithing, and I posted my opinion on how I don't think that tithing is a commandment. I do believe that it's an awesome practice to benefit the church, but I don't believe that it's a commandment, and I don't believe that if you don't do it, God won't bless you. And I recently posted it on Facebook, and my pastor emailed me and told me to take it down, and I took it down because, I respect him. But after I took it down, he told me that by saying that I spoke bad against the church, and that God, that God's going to judge me for it, and I got to be accountable, and woe unto me. And I just really felt weird. I felt, I really don't believe that. All I was posted was that we're not commanded to do it. If we do it, we should do it out of love. And God's not going to curse us if we don't tithe 10%. And I'm kind of young, and I'm not really brushed up as much as I should be in the Word of God. I mean, I'm 22 and I'm learning every day, so I didn't want to seem arrogant or anything like that. So I wanted to just get your opinion, and let me know if I was wrong, and if I do need to change my theology on that. And what do you believe?
Yeah, well, Aaron, if you can continue to listen, do it, because we're up against the break right now, and I do want to answer this carefully. If you cannot listen, stay on the line then, because I certainly want to answer your question. It's an important question. You're listening to End of the Age, and we'll talk about tithing just as quickly as we get back from this break. The number to call to reach us here, 800-INTIME.
This is actually a depiction of the false prophet. The Bible teaches us there are two rulers in the end time, a political leader and a spiritual leader. The political leader will head the one world government. The spiritual leader will head the one world religious system. Well, this is that man. He's going to look like a Christian. He actually is going to be the world's leading Christian. But yet, he will speak so deceptively that the world will obey him. But the fact is, they will be obeying the master plan of the dragon. That's the reason we need more than a surface knowledge of God's word in these days in which we live. We better know what we believe. We need to get our Bibles off the shelf and start reading them, because it's God's word that will keep us from going into apostasy and into error. One more thing we need to notice while we're here with this second beast. The Bible says he causeth the world to follow the first beast. He is going to endorse the one world government. He's going to tell all the people of the world, this is a good thing. You should follow this man. This man is leading us to peace. But don't you believe it, because it's really the master plan of the dragon.
Call 1-800-END-TIME to order this important lesson.
In answer to a former caller wondering about where I will be tomorrow, or Sunday morning, I should say, I will be at South Flint Tabernacle, It's also not only in Flint, but the area is called Burton, and the address is 3450 South Saginaw Street in, right, I guess the proper address would be Burton. Anyways, 3450 South Saginaw Street, and that will be Sunday morning. I don't have the exact time, but I'm sure if you did a little search on the internet, all that would be there. The phone number's there. I'm sure you could call them. We would love to have you. I will be preaching it in their service on Sunday morning, and it would be a great thing to meet all of you if you're interested in coming out. Now, let's go back to our last caller, Aaron, because he's concerned, and I think sincerely concerned, about tithing. Okay, here's what the Bible says. This is not an opinion. This is the message of Jesus Christ. It's Matthew chapter 23, verse 23. Jesus was talking to Pharisees, and he said, "Woe unto you, scribes and Pharisees, hypocrites, for you pay tithe of mint and anise and cumin, and have omitted the weightier matters of the law, judgment, mercy, and faith." And then this next phrase is key. These ought you to have done, and not to leave the other undone. So Jesus here was saying, you go through these rituals and you keep all those rituals, but you don't know anything about judgment, mercy, and faith. But then he said, I'm not teaching against tithing. You should do that. But make sure that your heart's right when you do it and you're doing it from the right motive. And I think Aaron mentioned that. We should do it out of a heart of love. At the same time, the Bible does tell us we should do it. It's not a teaching of the law, because Abraham was before the law and he paid tithing, and everyone after him did, because the Bible says the 10th is the Lord's. And I think it's in the book of Malachi where God said to Israel, "You have robbed me." And Israel said, "Wait a minute, how have we robbed you?" He said, "You've robbed me in tithes and in offerings." Tithing is a set amount, is 10%. That's what God ordained that we should give. And we give it to keep us from becoming stingy. It's also the key to financial blessing, because God has a law that if you give 10%, he'll find a way to bless you more than 10%. Now, we never do it to be blessed. We do it because we love God and we want to keep his word, and we love his kingdom, and therefore that's his chosen means for financing his kingdom. But anyway, Jesus definitely taught these things you should have done, but don't leave the tithing undone, he said. So I do absolutely believe in tithing. As far as I know, every cent I've made since I was born, I've tithed on. I remember the day my mother, I made $1 some way. I was probably 8, 9 years of age. And my mother called me over and said, "Okay, Irvin Jr., look." And she said, "We got to take 10 cents of this." And she had a little tithing envelope, and she put the 10 cents in there, and she said, "Now, when the offering plate comes by today, you put that in." And I did. And I've been doing that ever since. And what a blessing it has been. So anyway, yes, I do believe in tithing. I believe the scripture plainly teaches it. At the same time, we should do it out of a heart of love. But at the same time, we should do it. Don't forget Matthew 23:23. These things you should have done. Don't leave the other undone. All right. Well, wow, time's flying. We got to move fast. Jim, back to you.
All right, let's go now to Carla. You're next up on End of the Age.
Hi, Brother Baxter.
Hey, Carla.
I was just, I wrote my question down because it's so confusing to me, so I'll read it.
Okay.
As I understand your teaching, Israel and Jordan will not fall into the power of the Antichrist. So if the U.S. will be Israel's protector, doesn't that necessarily mean that the U.S. will also escape the power of the Antichrist?
I do believe that's what it means, Carla. Right now we're moving towards being a part of the one world system, but yet our present presidential campaign is all about, will we allow ourselves to be absorbed into this new world order, or will we revert back and reassert our sovereignty? Donald Trump has said in his campaign, if we don't defend our borders, we don't have a country. And so he is arguing against what all of Europe is embracing, what President Obama is embracing, what Hillary Clinton is embracing. He's arguing against open borders. He said we need to have borders. We need to keep our country. We need to defend the Judeo-Christian values of our country. So anyway, that is exactly what I believe. I believe the United States is going to fight with Israel, and whether they have a physical war or not, but nevertheless, there will be a dispute, and America will defend Israel against the encroachment of the Antichrist all during the time called the Great Tribulation. I do believe that, yes.
Okay. Well, I guess I'm kind of confused because we are taking so many steps to the Antichrist, I'll even say Antichrist economy, with the national ID coming in and biometric identification and things like that. So it's like we're sort of making things Antichrist friendly in this country right now. So do you believe, or I know this is just theorizing, but would you think that there'd have to be some kind of massive calamity to bring the United States back to, her moral bearings, I guess is what I want to say.
Yes, Carla, I do believe that. Matter of fact, the Bible teaches a war is coming. It's going to kill 1/3 of the human race. I believe America could lose 10, 20, 50 million people in this war. And I do believe that calamity would serve, and I wish it would not happen. I wish we could have the revival, and I wish we could go into repentance without that. But America is so far gone that it looks like there's going to have to be a catastrophic calamity to wake us up and to turn us back to God. So yeah, I agree with you fully, but I do believe the Bible teaches that we will not be a part of the New World Order, but that we will defend Israel against the New World Order. And so that certainly puts us in a position that we will be opposing them, hoping that that means that we would never fall under the power of the mark of the beast either. And I don't think we would, because taking the mark of the beast means you would worship the beast, worship the Antichrist, pledge allegiance to it. So it looks like to me that God's going to turn us back, and that gives a lot of responsibility to us, because that means America could very well become a place of refuge in the coming Great Tribulation, where people from all over the world could run to for safety. So that's another thing we have to really look forward to. Hope that helps some. And let me see, we got a little bit of time left. Let's keep going. Jim, back to you.
All right, let's go now to Oklahoma. And Ada, you're next up on End of the Age.
Thank you. Hello, Brother Baxter. Thank you for taking my call.
Oh, you're welcome.
I just wanted to call in and share something, a little prayer time I had back in 2012 when Obama was running for office again. They was having their big campaigns, and we were all just praying real hard that I think it was Mitt Romney, wasn't it, that was running?
Yes, that's right.
Would get the office, and that Obama would not be put in there. And I was praying and watching all the things, and I was seeing that they was having deceit and voter fraud and different things. And I was praying, I said, Lord, they just have the deck stacked against us. And right behind me saying that, I heard this not audible voice, but a voice in my head, and it said, yes, and I hold the trump card. Well, I immediately thought, oh, yes, you do. You're in control of this. And I ran and told my family about this. I said, I think we're going to pull this off. I think God's going to allow us to get President Obama out of there and maybe get this thing turned around. And I'll tell you, when Obama won that, I was so devastated. I almost cried myself to sleep that night, and I feel like he just comforted me and said, I gave the people what they wanted. It's like, there's just not enough umph there or something with the church to pull it off or something, So anyway, come again the other day. This has been 3 or 4 months ago. I was praying again, and I said, that same feeling coming to me, like, I don't think he could do this. There's too much corruptness and crookedness. He could never get in there. I was kind of praying for Donald Trump to get in there, and I thought he at least wants to make us sovereign and keep us from going into globalization. And then I had that same feeling. And I said, yeah, and I feel like the deck's stacked again. And then that he brought that back to my mind, that he held the trump card. And I said, I already prayed that. He said, yes, but I did not, in my mind, I heard this, not an audible voice. He said, I did not tell you when I'd play that card. And I've kind of took comfort in that, thinking that maybe this time around God is going to allow the church to feel so oppressed and foresee things as bad as it really could be if we don't get it turned around. We'll be for sure gone, it seems like. So
Ada,
we don't want to get our eyes on man and get our eyes on a person. But I think if Donald Trump does get this, it's going to be an act of God and a miracle from him.
Yeah. Well, listen, Ada, it's important that we realize that we're not dependent on politics for revival, because Jesus and his apostles had the world's greatest revival under a severe Roman one-world government. However, God at times has raised up friendly political situations to facilitate what he wanted to do in the earth. And as you mentioned, Donald Trump is by no means a choir boy, and I would not pass judgment, on him being a Christian. I don't think Christians should cuss in this. I will say this: he doesn't smoke, he doesn't drink, and so that's a good thing. But as far as certifying him as some great religious person, he's not. And so our hope is not Donald Trump. I want to make that very clear. Our hope is Jesus Christ. If he chooses to use Donald Trump, fine. If Hillary gets elected, we're still going to have revival. I don't care who gets elected. We are still going to have revival. It's prophesied in the Bible. We're going to have the greatest revival the world has ever known. But if God would arrange events to assist us, of course, we would welcome it. It appears the United States is going to side with Israel and against the Antichrist. Well, if that is to be true, then we have to have a leader that would do that. And that may well be what's going on right now. And all of us should be very prayerful. We also should be very humble, because we need God's help. And so we ought to be that way. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm totally out of time. Our time has come and gone. For those of you left on the screen, I apologize, but we'll be back here on Monday. So call us at that time. At the meantime, I want to thank all of you for participating in the program today. And if you'd like to become a partner with Endtime, we need you, by the way, because the Endtime is now. If you'd like to be a partner, call us. 800 Endtime is the number. That's 1-800-363-8463.
End of the Age is a production of Endtime Ministries. This broadcast will be available on our website, endtime.com, in the archives section. On our website, you'll also find more information about how current events are fulfilling Bible prophecy. To reach our operators, call 1-800-ENDTIME. That's 1-800-363-8463. Endtime Ministries is partner supported. We would like to say thank you to our partners who made this broadcast possible. To do what Matthew 24:14 said, to reach the world with the gospel of the kingdom.